Hi, I'm Erika of Grapefruit and Gardenia Designs and the Knit Kind podcast. Today's a little catch up with some details of New Hampshire Sheep and Wool that I went to on Mother's Day weekend as a little family treat. It was a beautiful day and we just decided impromptu to go. And a couple of projects that I have coming up that I want to tease and give an opportunity to anyone who wants to jump in on test knitting to test knit. So, welcome everyone. What I am wearing today is my 700 Fence Posts Cowl, the fingering weight version. This is one that I did with a Pride bundle from Molly Girl Yarns for the rainbow. So happy Pride Month, everyone. And the black and white in between is a hand-dyed from Backyard Fibers, I think it was called. I don't think that she is dyeing yarn anymore, but really nice weight for this time of year. So, New Hampshire Sheep and Wool. Let me show you a few things. I did not go with a long list of things to buy. We really just went to enjoy the day. I did go with one thing in mind, so I'll show you that in a minute. But mostly just to enjoy the day, get to celebrate spring, see some vendors who maybe I haven't seen before or some that I had seen and wanted to check out again, and have fun. So one thing I treated myself to is another pair of socks from Good Karma Farms. Jim was there cranking socks, as he does at most fiber festivals, and I love the way that I've shown these before, but he does the folded cuff hem on them, and they're really nice. So I love to get those. If you can't buy yarn, or if you're not going to buy yarn, buy yourself some socks sometime. Another non-yarn item that I bought was from Lee Greenwalt of Big Sky Farm Hand Weaving in Vermont. And it's this beautiful, I actually bought two, but I just have one to show you now. Beautiful hand woven cotton towel. And I loved her colors. I love the feel of them. I am replacing all of my other, over time, replacing all of my hand towels. So it was a nice opportunity to buy some things that were supported the fiber world and the fiber arts, but weren't necessarily just yarn. I did, however, buy a little bit of yarn. These had recently been on the Junction Fiber mill cast, so sorry about the noise. My mom had really loved the Pinky Peach one, and so I went ahead and got some of that. And for those of you who watch, this is the one that is dyed on the 1,000 pounds of wool, the Blue-Faced Leicester. It's very soft, I think, for, Blue-Faced Leicester can be, more scratchy to more soft. It really depends on the fleece itself, and then also, of course, on how it's processed, treated, spun, all the steps along the way. This feels like a very soft one to me. I also got one of the undyed ones, so I could do some color work. And I've been loving this combination lately, maybe because I've seen it around so much, I don't know, but sort of that idea of the gold with the pink and the white. So it took me a while to decide, but those were the three that I ultimately decided on, and they are all the Blue-Faced Leicester, so we'll see. Going to my design stash. And the other yarn I got, which is going to tie into what I tell you in a little bit, is from Paula Aaron's Dancing Pony Sheep Farm. I have everything sealed up. It's the time of year, and we're also doing a little bit of a house renovation project, so things are opened more, so I'd just rather protect things. I know it's plastic, but plastic is better than critters. So Paula Aaron's Dancing Pony Sheep Farm, which again I'm going to talk about in a minute. But she does not, at least as far as I've seen, have her yarn available online. So if you do want it, you need to go to a fiber festival or get in touch with her by email. And the cream here is Jacob. It is a 2-ply. Also, again, in my opinion, in terms of rustic wools, it is a soft next to skin rustic wool. I haven't knit with it yet or created a fabric to prove that theory, but it feels just in the skein, it does feel like it is next to skin soft. And then the darker is Romney. And then I have one that's a blend. So I I did write down, I think, that the dark one was the Romney. And then I assume that this one's blended, but because that tends to be the case. And what you're going to see in a minute too is why I've sort of been getting these color palettes to go together. So Paula Aaron's, and maybe, well, I have one more New Hampshire Sheep and Wool thing to show you. So let me show you that and then jump back to Paula and my newest designs that are, one is now in testing and the other one I'm finishing writing up the pattern. So this is my one other thing from New Hampshire Sheep and Wool. If you saw the last podcast that I posted, I said I was spinning the wool and it was from Underhill Fibers, and I had purchased it at Port Fiber in Maine, and it was labeled Sweetie. And I was thinking that was probably the actual sheep it was from, but then I wasn't sure if it was a blend and so on. Anyway, Underhill Fibers was at New Hampshire Sheep and Wool. And I asked, and in fact, it is from the sheep Sweetie. This is so light. I can't even tell you. I mean, it's so light, and it's really soft also. I intentionally spun this one, not a woolen spun with the long draw back, but I didn't have the fibers totally smooth going in one direction. And I did do sort of a little mix of a draw. I just wanted to play around with it. So I would call this one a semi-worsted spin. I think this is only 2 ounces. It's very airy though. And it's from Sweetie. So if you saw last time, this is the update. I came home from the Fiber Festival and I had to finish spinning it before I put my spinner away for the renovation, which is, I think I'm gonna have to find a spot and take it out because I'm having a little bit of spin withdrawal. But anyway, I got to finish that. My son fell in love with a sheep called Cookie at the festival and actually got to go in the pen on his 3rd visit back to see Cookie, and he got to go in the pen with her. So maybe if I can, I'll insert a picture of that. But it was making me laugh a little because Sweetie and Cookie are similar colors. And I was thinking, I really probably wasn't thinking at the moment, but could have gotten some fleece from Cookie or some fiber, some prepared fiber, and spun it into something to make for him. So I might have to put that on my to-do list for next time. So now let's go back, do a little teaser. I'm going to do a longer podcast where I really go into detail about these designs before they're launched. But I wanted to show you a little teaser of them today. So this is my Unbroken Circle cowl. So you can see the fit more or less. I mean, this is obviously, it's quite wide. I'm putting it over another cowl and over a head and a microphone and everything. But this is a Mobius cowl, obviously. It is knitted in the round, and it is knitted with 2 colors. In this case, I did 2 natural wool colors, and I'm going to tell you about the collaboration in a second. So this is the design. It is really repeated halfway around with the colors reversed, and then this is where I joined them with the graft at the end. So a little bit of a different motif right here. So this yarn is from Melissa Littlefield of Knitting the Stash, and I have it right here. Like I said, I'm going to do a much longer podcast just on the whole design process because I took a lot of pictures along the way and I made a lot of notes of things that I wanted to share, not only about the end result, but about the process as I went, you know, swatching, making design decisions. So what this is Shorn 5. Melissa has a process by which annually now 5 times she has had yarn produced, and it is, I don't know, so on here it does say mostly Corriedale, sourced from Seven Sisters Farm in Illinois, and EWE, and us in Nebraska. It is a 3-ply DK weight yarn, and it has about 250 yards in a 3.5 ounce skein. So this year, she had it made into 3 colors, and I don't want to steal her thunder. I'm going to let her do her podcast that's really about the yarn, but I did want to talk about the designs, and so that's what it's designed in, and it will be a collaboration with her where she has posted that we're doing this collaboration. So I'm not giving up any breaking news there, as we've looked for testers for the 2 designs. And so she'll have kits available with her yarn. And what I wanted to do is I answered the design call for patterns specifically made for Shorn, and that's the focus with the kits and launch. And I also wanted to do it so that they have a life beyond that collaboration. And the life beyond that collaboration, I hope, will really focus on and celebrate farm yarns. So obviously, you can knit any pattern in any yarn you want, right? Nobody's telling you you can or you can't use a certain fiber, or you can or you can't use a certain weight yarn. You can knit any pattern in any weight yarn. It's going to affect the yardage, the gauge, the fit, if it's a piece that needs to fit, and so on. But the basic instructions will work. And so what I'm hoping is that the primary focus of these 2 patterns, that their life beyond the collaboration for Shorn 5 is to continue to celebrate farm yarn. And so when I made the designs inspired by stories that do that. And so with Unbroken Circle, and this is why I'm going back now to Paula Ahrens, with Unbroken Circle, Paula Ahrens, who is the caretaker of Dancing Pony Farm, she tells a story on the Junction Fiber Mill Millcast. And I think I wrote down the 2 episodes. It's 71 and 73. And that's referenced in the pattern about sheep circles. And I'm calling them sheep circles. If there's a formal name for them, I will have to learn that. But essentially, it is this idea that when a person or another animal is in distress, that sheep are really connected emotionally to us, as many of us know from having domestic, house cats or dogs and pets, and the connection that you have with pets. And obviously, when you have a farm, it's a little bit different. And you're farming for sustenance as well, right? Sometimes it's to produce meat, sometimes it's to produce yarn, sometimes it's both. I mean, not just yarn, fiber. So it's a little different with farm animals from pets, but there are these connections. And what she talks about is a time that the sheep circled around her. So I'm not going to give too much up on it now, but I wanted to just say that is the inspiration for this design that I will be talking a lot more about. But the whole idea was to use the Shorn 5 to tell stories about how special farm yarn is, and farm to skein, and all the things that I've really started talking about more on this podcast and in my designs. So that's the cowl, and we do have enough testers working on it, but if you are interested in testing it and you have a special farm yarn, or even not a farm yarn, but you have a yarn that's special to you, let me know, send me a message. I will put you can always contact me through Ravelry, Knitty Elf 40, Erika Field's Ravelry store. You can find me in both of those places. But I'll put as well that you can contact me by email if you'd like to do an additional test for that yarn. For that pattern. Just reach out to me. It's DK weight, and it uses 2 skeins, and it pretty much uses the whole 2 skeins. I try to leave a little tiny buffer, but I say, save your swatch to unravel. One of the things I do with these accessory designs is that I really do try to maximize your yarn usage so that you don't have much left over. That means, of course, that you want to hit gauge and not play yarn chicken. But in this case, I used 92 grams each of the 200-gram skeins of yarn. So tiny buffer for swatching there. Now, I also did a shawl. So give me a second. I'm going to grab that off my mannequin over here. Maybe I should have shown it to you on the mannequin. I will insert pictures of that as well. But this is the shawl. It is also, it's a triangle shawl. It grew and blocked beautifully, and it's got a really nice drape to it now too. So I did it on a needle one size bigger than I did the cowl on. It does use all 3 colors of the shorn. So you can see it's a mix of garter stitch, mosaic. It's all mosaic, no stranded color work in this one. The cowl is stranded color work. This one is mosaic. Little bit of cabling in there, not heavy cabling, more like twists or crosses, simple crosses, and then a repeating pattern. And so I'm calling this one Shearing Day Shawl. And again, part of that is really to celebrate the farm yarn. And, you know, we hear so much if you follow now, if you go to fiber festivals or you do follow some of these small batch producers, you know, the big things in the spring are lambing and shearing. And so I've loved hearing the stories about Shearing Day and how in some cases it's a whole community coming together. Some of these people who have been doing the shearing for 50 years themselves, and or have had family generation by generation where they pass down the skill of shearing sheep. And then, you know, just watching them come in. I know some people talk about the family making a big pot of chili that day, or sometimes they talk about, you know, the brunch spread that they put out, sandwich spreads, and people just come from all over, some to watch, some to help, and, you know, see the sheep get corralled into an area and who's going to be next, and the way that they emotionally react as well. But again, it doesn't hurt the sheep. In fact, they need to be sheared. If they don't, many of you have probably seen some of those pictures of the sheep that have been in the wild where they are really in danger because they haven't been sheared for so many years. So we get to benefit from beautiful, beautiful fiber, natural fiber. In most cases, choices that are better for the environment than fast fashion that is produced in ways that are not environmentally friendly, and of course not in all cases are protective of the people who are working to produce those fibers as well. So again, celebrate the farm yarn, celebrate the positivity, the impact or lack thereof on our environment. Make things that you love by hand that last. It's just a special process. So I'm really excited to be able to do these 2 designs to celebrate farm yarn, to pay homage to the people who produce it and who work so hard. And, you know, we go to these fiber festivals and sometimes money is freely flowing, and other times I think people will look at a skein of yarn that might cost $35 or $40 and think, oh gosh, you know, that's out of my budget. And I understand that sentiment too. Sentiment as well as reality, that is sometimes out of the budget. But when it's not out of the budget, or when you have an opportunity to maybe treat yourself to something that is special and unique and isn't going to necessarily just sit in your closet, no judgment if it does, but you can immediately make something out of and then wear it and have it forever if you care for it and it doesn't get critters in it, and you know, carefully wash it and store it seasonally and that kind of thing. You're paying for a lot more than a skein of yarn. And that is a reminder to all of us of why it is so special, and why when we can, if that is something that you're able to support, to please do that. I also think that this is a good moment to mention that at the festival, I did make note and take some pictures of some producers where I don't know every single business practice of every single producer. But there are plenty of them where you can get what I hope is ethically sourced wool. You know, it may or may not be spun domestically or produced domestically. There may be different things with carbon footprint with it traveling further. You know, every manufacturer is going to have these steps along the way, and you can do a deep dive on any of it. And it is certainly true that with the more expensive ones, you can often trace why it is more expensive. But with the ones that are less expensive, it doesn't mean that there's some major misstep along the way. It may be something to do with where the fiber is sourced from. We want fair wages. We want things to be as ideal as possible. But the reason I'm saying that, and it's not just that you're getting like a soft, really fine fiber and that's more expensive and a really scratchy one is cheap. It's not like that either. There are grades of things being rustic, right? There are breeds that are conservation breeds. There are, we don't all need merino, number one. Number two, sometimes merino is cheaper because there is more of it, right? So there's no like check boxes of this makes a less expensive yarn, this makes a more expensive yarn, and it's across the board. There's just not. And a lot of people are trying to cover their costs, right? It's expensive for them to enter these shows and so on. So I will also highlight, and I probably did on here, but there are definitely a few where you can get significantly less expensive yarn. So you don't have to be intimidated to go to a fiber show and think there's not going to be anything there for you. Bartlett Yarns in Maine, they are a producer where, I don't want to speak for them. You can watch, there's plenty of podcasts that have interviewed them and they've evolved over the years, but not necessarily is, selling to hand knitters their number one source of business. But they do have a source of business that's there with a huge range of colors and a big range of the types of wool that they're offering and the price points. So there are some that are extremely affordable. And, when you're making sweaters, those don't always have to be next to skin soft. So you have a lot more leeway with what you're making and what you're buying and what you're paying for it. There's also farms that do alpaca blends, and sometimes those are less expensive. A Good Karma farm I had mentioned, they have some very reasonably priced yarns for what you're getting and some great sweater kits. So, that's another option. And I'm trying to see if I highlighted some on here that are definitely not going to be in the low end of your budget, but that I do want to also give a shout out to because I want to circle back. I didn't necessarily purchase their yarns because I don't want to have a ton of yarn in stash for designing that I'm not necessarily sure when I'm going to use it, how I'm going to use it. I've got a really nice group of things now, but I flagged some that I absolutely want to go back to. And one of them, let me see, actually I have two of them here. I have, where's the one that, okay. Sorry. I have this one that I know I must go back to when I have a design in mind. It is called Heliosphere Farm. Can you get that to focus? These are just some postcards that their adorable little child was giving out. And their yarn, wow. I picked that up and I thought under many circumstances that would have been the one that I would have left with because it was unreal. And the samples she had there were amazing too. It's a 3-ply. I picked it up and right away I knew it was special. I asked them where they had it spun, and it's my friends at Junction Fiber Mill. So good job, Amanda Pegg and team. That yarn was amazing. It was a 3-ply, which you don't necessarily see as much. It can, I suppose, make the price point higher because you've got to spin the 3 singles first and then ply them together. So it's a little bit more work to do than a 2-ply, I think. Not speaking for the mill, but I'm going to say, if you're doing a 3-ply, you're spinning it into 3 plies first instead of 2. And she had, I think, 3 colors, like again, the dark, medium, and light. Exceptional. If you are looking for exceptional farm yarn and you want to go spend a chunk of change on some really, really nice stuff and get to knitting it right away, find them. They are amazing. But so here I am, I'm going back and forth, right? And so let me go back one more time and say that another favorite of mine all the time from way pre-designing is Green Mountain Spinnery when you're talking about your natural wools, right? So Green Mountain Spinnery, you've got many price points and many different weights of yarn, a beautiful color palette, and amazing natural wool. It's a co-op. You can make a sweater. Actually, they also do they just recently had a sale where they do things that are like slightly underweight, slightly overweight. So that I very much encourage you to check out if you're looking for some options that are a little bit more affordable, but really great quality, great for color work. They are a woolen spun mill. I think oh gosh, I better not misspeak. I know I have used yarn from them that is woolen spun. Let me see if it says on here. It says organic and natural fiber yarns made in Vermont. Anyway, check them out. There's a bunch of different types of yarn there. So that's just a little glimpse today into New Hampshire Sheep and Wool, some of the special treats that I got, a little teaser on those designs coming out, mostly to say if you're interested in testing, reach out to me. I'm happy to take on a couple more testers for the cowl, even though we don't necessarily need more testers for the cowl. I do have more spots to test the shawl if you'd like to. And the shawl is not quite 750 yards, but again, I used 250 yard skeins, 3 colors. The 2 lighter colors, I used pretty much the whole thing. Again, enough to have you hopefully not play yarn chicken and be able to do it if you're on gauge. And the darker yarn, I used a little bit less in the end because the rows get so long at the end that I wanted to keep going, but I didn't want anybody to stress that they were going to run out of yarn. So figure 750 yards, 3 colors, approximately equally split. And if you would like to test that, we are most likely going to start the test at the very end of June, maybe a little bit early if I can get it done and tech edited. And then that will run for about a month as well. So go to the end of June till the end of July for the shawl. Okay, everyone, it was great catching up with you. I hope that you are doing amazing woolly things, even though it's starting to be summer, that maybe you're finding some nice summer knits. Maybe you're in air conditioning and you're getting a head start on next year's winter knits. Whatever you're doing, I hope you knit kindly, live kindly, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
She wants to get petted.
Go ahead.
She won't bite you.
Wow, Ben.
Looks like Ben's going to be a shepherd.